I never planned to open my son's safe. In truth, I was only searching for a folder containing old property papers that had somehow disappeared from my desk. Yet the strange tension inside our home had been growing for months, quietly pressing against my instincts. My son guarded his room with unusual intensity, and my wife always found a reason to interrupt whenever I asked simple questions. If you love stories where karma always wins in the end, subscribe to Karma Effect. Hidden behind a stack of storage boxes, I found the small steel safe. As I entered the code I remembered from years ago, my wife burst through the doorway shouting for me to stop immediately. Her voice carried fear, not anger. The lock clicked open. I lifted the heavy door. Whatever rested inside erased every trace of color from her face, and suddenly silence became far more frightening than any confession. For more than 30 years, I believed my greatest achievement was not my career, but the home my wife and I built together. Every extra shift, every missed vacation, every personal sacrifice had one purpose. I wanted my family to feel secure, even when life tested us. My wife managed our finances with confidence, and I never questioned her decisions because trust had always been the strongest foundation beneath our marriage. Our son grew into a respectful young man who rarely gave us reason for concern. From the outside, our lives appeared steady and ordinary. Then, almost without notice, small cracks began spreading beneath that peaceful surface. Money quietly disappeared from accounts. Conversations ended the moment I entered the room. My wife answered questions with unusual defensiveness, while my son guarded his bedroom like forbidden territory. I noticed every change, yet chose faith over suspicion, believing love deserved patience before judgment ever did. The warning signs did not arrive all at once. They appeared quietly, disguised as ordinary moments that seemed too small to challenge. I noticed expensive purchases that nobody could explain without changing the subject. Important legal papers vanished from the cabinet where they had always been kept. Whenever I asked my son a direct question, my wife answered before he could speak, as though protecting him from something neither of them wanted me to understand. Even relatives began offering careful remarks, suggesting our family no longer felt quite the same. I smiled politely and dismissed their concerns because I believed trust should never surrender to suspicion without undeniable proof. Looking back, I understand that love can sometimes blind an honest heart. Every excuse I accepted gave deception another place to hide. What I failed to realize then was painfully simple. Every warning I ignored quietly prepared me for a discovery far more devastating than imagination alone could predict. I looked inside the safe without speaking. Neatly arranged folders held bank statements I had never seen, property transfer documents carrying unfamiliar signatures, private financial agreements, and printed messages that revealed conversations between my wife and son. Together, they had been moving family assets behind my back for months. In that instant, my wife's desperate scream finally made sense. She stepped closer, her hands trembling, begging me to let her explain before reaching the wrong conclusion. Minutes later, my son rushed through the front door, breathing heavily, insisting everything was only a misunderstanding. They spoke over each other, searching for words that might repair what those papers had already destroyed. For the first time in our marriage, I refused to answer immediately. I gathered every document, closed the safe with quiet hands, and simply looked at them. The loudest truth in a broken family is often spoken by the one who no longer needs to raise his voice. Their fear finally filled the silence. I did not accuse anyone. I did not demand explanations or threaten consequences. Instead, I quietly contacted an experienced attorney and an independent financial investigator. Together, we reviewed every document from the safe with careful patience. Each signature was examined against official records. Every bank transfer was traced through legitimate statements. Every property document was checked for authenticity. Facts became stronger than emotions, and truth required no raised voice. At home, my silence slowly changed the atmosphere. My wife relaxed, believing I had accepted her explanations without further questions. My son returned to his normal routine, convinced the danger had quietly disappeared. They mistook restraint for surrender because they misunderstood the difference between reacting and preparing. While their fear gradually faded into confidence, my foundation grew stronger each passing day. Their comfort became the greatest advantage I never needed to announce. A week later, the family gathered believing we would have another difficult conversation filled with emotions and apologies. Instead, I placed a neatly organized file on the table and invited my attorney to speak. One by one, certified records confirmed every unauthorized transfer, every altered document, and every hidden agreement. Each explanation my wife attempted was answered with verified evidence. My son lowered his eyes, unable to challenge facts that had been carefully examined. The relatives who once wondered whether I had become overly suspicious finally understood why I had remained silent. No voices were raised. No insults were exchanged. The truth carried enough weight on its own. I looked at the two people I had trusted most and realized respect cannot survive where honesty has been abandoned. That day, nothing dramatic happened. Justice arrived quietly, supported by evidence, dignity, and the simple power of undeniable truth alone. I lost the family I believed would stand beside me forever, and that truth still hurts. Some relationships cannot survive broken trust, no matter how many memories they hold. Yet I discovered something equally important. Dignity remains when integrity refuses to bend. I chose forgiveness, not because betrayal deserved it, but because bitterness deserved nothing from me. Reconciliation requires honesty from everyone, and that door never reopened. Justice sometimes means walking away without surrendering your character. Truth may travel slowly, but it never arrives empty-handed. In the end, I kept my conscience, my self-respect, and the quiet strength to begin again with hope, wisdom, peace, intact forever within my heart. If you love stories where karma always wins in the end, subscribe to Karma Effect.